Hey guys, I have to redo this. If you know me, I occasionally make Daybreak 2 killer guides that provide explanations and techniques to maximize the potential of your killer gameplay. A lot of words, I know. Those same principles are going to be applied to an overall general killer guide. I'm aware that there are other Daybreak 2 killer guide tutorials out there, but I promise I will make your time worth it. I swear. I will go over killer types, lunging, lunge slow, and vaulting, attacking plus cosmetic advantages / disadvantages, detection and mechanical counters, mind gaming, survivor priority, genlocking, tracking survivor mannerisms, and understanding killer kit niches and what they specifically aim to do. Timestamps will be on this video. And without further ado, let's start with killer types. There are 4 killer types in this game: mobility, gen control, anti-loop, and M1, or what the name actually is, assault. Mobility killers excel at navigating maps on a timely manner, and outside of gen control killers, having severe map control. Most of these killers have some form of teleport ability, which will be in this list: Ghost, Possessed, Star Eater, though I'd argue he's more of an anti-loop to a degree, Unforgotten, and Void Skulk. If played correctly, these killers can be absolutely oppressive to survivors on their respective maps. Not only that, but they notably have the lowest active ability cooldowns in the game for the most part. When playing a mobility killer, it's important to be wary of alert survivors and understand where survivors are the moment they spawn. That way, you don't waste any time getting it down. Back to alert survivors though, they are your number 1 counter purely for the fact that they show your exact position, even when teleporting. Stunners can also affect specific mobility killers to a degree, but it's fine. They're stunners, they do that to everybody. All of these killers, aside from Ghost, also provide some form of debuff to survivors. Gen control. Gen control killers kits are aimed to slow down or prevent gens from being completed, which in turn burns out time. It's important that they drop chase in a timely manner so that they can patrol gens. These killers include Android, Banshee, Experiment, Principal, Watcher, and that's it. If played correctly, gens will be pushed back and survivors will be unable to complete their objective. Outside of gen rushers, undetectables who excel at gen rushing are your number 1 issue. Let's say Danya, biggest example, or Becca during late game. If you're a sweat or genuinely just enjoying the smell of the game, following survivor priority will help you in the long run. Anti-loop. Being the largest of all 4 categories, anti-loop killers excel at ending chase quickly. This list includes Empress, Host, Janitor, Polluted, Showstopper, Slasher, who is arguably the best killer in the game, and Warden. Anti-loop killers probably consist of the most uniquely diverse kits in one category, but they all aim for the same thing. Some just straight up end chase in a click of a button, some slow, some stun. They have variety. Stunners overall are also your number 1 enemy as an anti-loop killer. Assault killers, who, just for my own sanity and not wanting to risk it with the YouTubian feds, I'll call them M1 killers. M1 killers excel at utilizing their basic attack, and include Apostate, Boss, Idol, Stalker, Surgeon, and Werewolf. These killers are also usually pretty fast to a degree, and get a buff or an advantage overall when making an attack. With this too, overall, the standard undetectables and gen rushers are your main issue when playing any of the M1 killers. Every killer has their own kit which caters towards a specific counter or playstyle, so it's a matter of messing around and finding what fits you, as well as doing some digging on what survivors counter you. Stats. It's important to look at a killer's stats, which have speed, terror or fear radius size, detection cooldown, attack recovery time, and lunge speed boost. Speed is how fast the killer is, and the terror is how far away a survivor can be when they are beginning to hear heartbeat. Speed and terror are measured from 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely unprofitable by any means, so you do not benefit off it being that small, and 10 being extremely profitable, which you are basically getting carried by your stats. at that rate. Detection CD is how long you can't detect after using your detection, aka it's a detection cooldown. Your attack recovery time is your attack cooldown. Both are measured in seconds. Or milliseconds, it really depends. 90 seconds is the usual detection cooldown, but some killers have larger or smaller CDs depending on their kit. Boss is currently the only killer who can directly tamper with his detection cooldown as part of his kit. Lunge speed boost is the move speed bonus that a killer gets when lunging or initiating their attack. They typically have a time duration displayed underneath or beside it as well. Surgeon is the only character who can directly tamper with his lunge speed due to his swift stacks. Ooh, I'm running out of time. All killers are slowed briefly after lunging. Also, every killer has a difficulty rating between 1, which is the easiest, and 5 being very hard. I recommend playing different killers of each difficulty to see what fits you and to test your own skill. Lunging, lunge slow, and vaulting. It's important, especially as a slow killer with 4 to 5 speed, that you are very wary and somewhat precise with when you lunge. Due to the lunge slow a killer gets when making or missing an attack, it can harm your chase progress if you miss. High-speed survivors will be able to regain all distance they had from you when missing. Excuse me. Same thing goes for vaulting. Some survivors will vault fake in an attempt to create more distance between you and them, so be sure to try and push them to the smaller sides of loops where vaulting could give you a chance to attack. I'm not the best looper from a survivor standpoint, so I can't really give you comprehensive loop examples, but from a killer standpoint, you have to be sparing when you vault and when you mind game. Mind game too much or too little, and the survivor will be able to read you. Like, they will read you hard. I like to call it, like, use the 3 to 4 times the charm rule. If they go the same way twice, be wary of how they do it for the 3rd time when you first encounter them. If they do the same thing again, try catching them making a mistake on their 3rd repeat. Some survivors will also attempt to mind game you and will vault into you in order to confuse you. If a survivor panic vaults like this multiple times, then find the opportunity to hit them in that attack or action. We all love skins. Well, actually, let me round that back. Cosmic advantages and disadvantages. We all love skins, and most of them are great. But even if a skin is good, sometimes the animation and hitbox of a cosmetic weapon can mess up your swing timing. Like, really bad. Take Siren Calls, for example. Banshee and Polluted normally swing directly forward, and Surgeon's hitbox has a bit of wiggle room at the back of his saw, because his hitbox is like really small. Polluted has a longer swing and weapon, while Banshee and Surgeon have smaller weapons. Siren Calls gives Surgeon this huge spear with the same hitbox, and Polluted and Banshee do a 360 instead of attacking forward. In this sense, Banshee and Polluted Siren Call skins give you an advantage, while Surgeon's gives you a disadvantage, aka the pay to win tactics. This doesn't mean that you should not wear these skins either. Equip what you like. The Siren Call skins are gorgeous. If you like a skin, your choice whether you wear it or not. Also your choice whether you switch out the ability effects or not. Now, survivor priority. No matter what killer you play, there will always be a list dictating survivor priority. This priority may change depending on the specific killer, but generally the list goes like this, in my opinion. So just be wary, this is my opinion. Danya, Becca, any other gen rusher, undetectables, all-rounders, healers, alerters/trackers, and loopers. If you have the option to ignore chasing a looper, I'd highly recommend it, like by any means. The quicker you get gen rushers out, the slower gen progression will become. And if you've played Daybreak for a while, you'd also note that some of the survivor types I mentioned are not physically stated in-game. So I'll break them down briefly to you. All-rounders are characters whose abilities can aid them in any situation. The only 2 all-rounders in the survivor roster are Yvonne and Parker. Yvonne, aka my main, gets a speed boost and repair boost passively whenever you down, kill, or detect someone. Or the killer. By you, I mean. She used to receive a healing boost as well before that was removed in Daybreak 2. Rip OG Yvonne, I miss you. Then we have Parker, who has to manually activate his buff by taking his drink and doing one of 3 actions. Sprinting to give him a minor speed boost, be on a gen or briefly be on or get on a gen and briefly become a 10 repair, or heal a down survivor for a healing boost and a shaved cooldown. If played correctly in specific situations, all rounders can be nightmarish. I would know. I'm an Arisen Yvonne main and a Blood 5 Parker. I've played these games before. Alerters can be a nuisance too if you aren't good at tuning their detections out, especially Yan with her detection machine on Haverhill specifically. The only current alerters are Yan, or Yan, however you pronounce her name, I apologize, Kelvin, Serena, Gabriella, Sanjana, and Ryder. Out of the entire list, Gabriella and Sanjana would be your highest priorities. Or really, I'd argue Gabriella and Kelvin, just because they have the highest repair out of all of them. Gabriella's a 10 repair, and Kelvin's a 6 repair, I believe. But yeah. Genlocking. If you don't take anything away from this video when playing Killer, in Daybreak of course, at least remember these 2 words. Zoning and genlocking. Zoning is the act of a killer purposefully patrolling one area to push the remaining gens on the same side. So there's not 3 gens directly next to each other, but all of the gens are still on like the same side, the same area. So killer doesn't really have to leave that area in a sense. Genlocking, on the other hand, is the act of the killer purposefully pushing survivors to a different area so the final 3 gens are extremely close together. Smart survivors, aka players, or survivors whose kits aim to break genlocks, such as Crosby and Danya, will notice your patrolling pattern and attempt to break the genlock by any means, whether that be early game, mid game, or late game. If you have a full lobby with a genlock, you've basically won in spirit. Like, you genlock with an 8 lobby on any map except for the new map, and you're pretty much set. You're pretty much golden. If you have a full lobby with a oh, yeah, I just read that. The easiest maps to genlock on would be Haverhill Hospital. Hey, it's editing me here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say Shifty instead of Wastewater. I don't know what I was thinking, but Shifty Station is downright the easiest map to genlock in. Don't let anybody confuse you. Shifty Station is the worst map in the game. Hold. And it is the easiest to genlock in the game. Okay, back to it. And I'd even argue St. Anne's over Gaikahara, as long as you have an 8 lobby. If you have an 8 lobby with Gaik and St. Anne's, then you're fine. You're perfectly fine. Tracking player looping mannerisms. This is where it gets slightly more advanced than the last part. Understanding how a player loops, moves, and reacts is also essential to ending chases quickly. Some survivors may constantly run away from you, some may stay out of sight, or some will be chase hungry and follow you like a sick dog. Leave chase-hungry survivors alone. They rarely ever complete objectives for their team, and they rarely ever help their team by any means. Looping-wise, some players may also panic vault into you, like I mentioned before, in order to confuse you and gain distance. If they do it enough times to where you can tell it's a habit, wait for the perfect time to strike, and get an easy down. While in Chase 2, be mindful of how easy it is for your killer to chase. For some examples, Showstopper is the slowest killer at base speed. She's like a 4 speed, I think, which is insane. But she gets much faster with max stats in her kit. I forget what the name is called because I don't play Showstopper, but she does get fast, like really fast. Surgeon has the smallest terror radius in-game, which is a 7.5. Most of these are from the wiki, by the way. Ghost, Idol, and Stalker have the largest terror radiuses, or radii. I don't know how you would plural, like make that plural. But Idol and Ghost are some of the fastest killers in game, aside from the Principal, and more. Understanding when to drop chase is a key factor in having consistently successful matches. Take your mobility and the type of survivor you're chasing into account. If you've been chasing a looper early game for over a minute, it may be time to drop chase and find a gen rusher. However, if there's 2 survivors left and you're chasing the gen rusher, you could stick a bit longer. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this out today or tomorrow, but whatever the case may be, I hope this assisted you in some way. If I jumbled up anything and it sounds confusing, you can ask me any questions in the comments and I'll be able to help out. Maybe some people within the community will be able to help you out as well. Love y'all like no other. Stay creative. Peace.
I'm right behind you.
This is a certified classic.